so much for coming. Even though you may just need to sit down and let your feet rest for 30 minutes, we're glad you're here and hope that it will be valuable for you. Do you want to talk a little bit about your background, Dena?
Sure. So I guess I've worked in this industry probably for about 15 years. I work in public relations and communications and marketing. Work with some of the top brands out there, but we also consult and work with smaller people or people that are wanting to get into the industry. We focus on telling brand stories, so we talk a lot about products and how to use them, and then work to help increase your sales, actually. So.
And I love that you ended with telling stories, because that sort of has been the story of my life. I've spent my whole career telling stories. I worked in television production, I've done graphic design, and I worked for Bassmaster, and now I have a marketing agency where I help people tell their stories, sort of like Dena does. We do some of the same things, and then she does a lot of PR, and both of us help people with their strategy and work with the brands that you probably sell in your stores. So with that, we will get started here. I don't know if I know how to, there we go. So we're talking today about experiential marketing and reimagining store events. Consumers now more than ever really want to experience brands. You've probably heard that millennials would prefer, I think there's a Harris poll that says the millennials would rather, 73% of millennials would rather have an experience than a material thing. And I think after the pandemic, a lot of people want an experience, right? We stayed home for so long, everybody wants an experience. Gen Z was like the millennials, they want brand experiences, they want something tangible and tactile. And I think this is a good opportunity. This represents a good opportunity for retailers that you can create excitement and you can breathe life into your brand. And the great thing about it for you guys is you can do this right at the point where someone is making a buying decision, which is in your store. So that's really a great place to be. And I think we can show you today that some ways you can do that don't require, a ton of money, or maybe some, but you can adapt things to work for you.
Okay, so I have a couple of case studies for you. I have some technological difficulties, and so if you want to see pictures, we can show them to you later, so I'm going to wing it. One of them is I work with a technological angler, and he does seminars in a lot of different boat dealerships. So what they do is they do free ones, and then they have paid ones. So they'll go in and do like 2 seminars with a lunch. They invite customers, invite the public, and he does a seminar and a PowerPoint, goes through first more basic, why you would use a fish finder or why you use electronics, goes over the different types that there are, and just keeps it easy. Have lunch, and then they go more in detail, like why, what kind of settings would you do, what kind of features do you really want, and show pictures and things like that. So then they offer a paid one. 2 to 3 weeks later, they've had up to 150 people that come in, and they really dig into how to use the systems, what they look like, ask a lot of questions. The results of these are, they get new customers, they get customers more excited and really trust the dealership, but they typically sell 4 to 5 units that can be anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000. So they see a lot of sales that come off of these.
And I would just say, sort of as a jumping off point too, is you can look at what the big guys are doing. So for instance, I'll just run through some quick examples. Like if you ever go to a Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World, there's always a Toyota truck parked out in front of there, and it's a big relationship between Toyota and Bass Pro Shops. But I think that there's an opportunity for you to reach out to other people in your community, like a truck dealership, a boat dealership, or that sort of thing, just to bring those sort of things to your store, right? How hard would it be to get your local, truck dealer to let you park a truck there, and they get an opportunity to talk to people about that. And then again, it creates an experience for your customer when he's coming in to do more than just shop, right? And he feels like he actually did something different. Obviously, Walmart does a lot of this sort of thing in their parking lot. Their vendors, they fund it. And you may not be able to bring Pepsi to your store, but you probably can bring another brand, talk to your partners and see if they have activations that they could send to your store, to the store level. I think you'd be surprised, and you may know that the outreach that these brands, they want to be there. Right? And they may not have their national team, but they usually have somebody regionally that can come to your store and on their behalf and bring an activation to you. And then this is the bottom there is a Dick's Sporting Goods. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called House of Sport. And they're creating these experiences inside the store, like this rock climbing wall, and then they merchandise around that. And again, that's very expensive and a big budget thing, but I think it would, you guys could do similar things by creating this experience and then merchandise around it so that you have all the things there that you would need to do that activity, if that makes sense. We're both talking about a couple of things that we've seen work really well. I have a tackle store in my area that does music. They use music as a way to reach their customers. I was a TV producer for ESPN for a long time, and there were things that we always knew people were attracted to. I produced outdoor shows, but we knew that if we included music, kids, and dogs, it was always going to get people's attention, because when you think about it, that all of us sort of have an emotional attachment to those things, or most of us do. So Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle brings in, this guy's name is Chris Alvarado. He's a local musician that's very well known. They created an event called Cigars and Bars, and they actually created a little cigar bar out on their patio, which was outside. They just came in and kind of draped it and brought some furniture from home, basically, and made a little cigar bar. And then he played. They also put sports up on the big screen outside. And it was a really good activation that people felt like they had an experience. Some other things that they brought in were, food trucks, which in our area, I'm sure in your area too, are really popular. And the food trucks want to be there. And then they obviously attract people to the event as well. Some other things that they did, and you guys probably do these sorts of things all the time, but they had premiums for the first people to come. They did prize drawings based on spending. They did giveaways. They partnered with some of their manufacturers to do giveaways, and then they had like a pre-order of kayaks that were a new model. And the other cool thing was they encouraged customers sort of on a one-on-one basis in the lead up to this, while they were promoting it, to bring instruments, and they would have like a jam session afterwards, which was really, really a fun part of it.
Yeah. So we have dogs here. Another great way to increase sales and create that experience is having in-store demos. So the dugout, you're over here, right? It's another one of my case studies. They actually have a pond so that people can come in and demo the kayaks that they sell. If you can get people using your products, if you can get them out there casting, and trying out boats and being able to ask questions, it can really increase sales.
There's a picture of the top right there.
Right over there.
The dugout with
their dog.
With a dog and a demo.
But you can also get your manufacturers, whether it's stickers or, discount cards or different things you can give away. You can have events around it too, like a big demo day, bringing people in. And get your local, sometimes you can get restaurants, or if you have a brewery, close by, come out for samples. But there's a lot of neat things that you can do, but actually let them try products, and it really helps.
again, and taking a cue from the big guys on that, I think Shimano and Shimano is one of Dena's clients, and they do a great job of getting the product in people's hands because they realize if people can actually, use their product, they can feel the difference between them and maybe their competitors. Mm-hmm. The same as, like at bass tournaments, when I worked for Bassmaster, the boat brands wanted to do demo rides at the event because they were all like, our sales go so far up if we can get somebody in the boat. Once you get them in the boat, you can sell them. Mm-hmm. Another great way, again, to attract people is through dogs. Everybody loves dogs. It seems like if you walk around today, there's a bunch of dogs in here today. I didn't see them yesterday, but there's a bunch of dogs. So somebody's doing
There's
something.
one in the bar last night. So,
and when you walk around and see somebody with a dog, you just immediately, I'm the first one going up to say, can I love on your dog? But some different ways that you can do that, use dogs is, the big air dogs. There's organizations that do national big air competitions, which is diving dogs, and they usually have people in their community. You could call them or anybody in your community to ask if there's people there that do diving dogs, and you might be surprised that within your driving distance, there's somebody that does it and could bring them into your location. Another thing is I've seen some very, very cool in-store demos with dogs where somebody will bring their retriever dog in, they'll hide things in the store and the dog goes to get it and ignores everybody there. It's amazing how well trained these dogs are if you've never been around them. And there are definitely retriever clubs in almost every community that has a strong outdoor presence. So if you have an outdoor shop there's probably somebody there that in your area that trains dogs and could bring them into your store and do demos with them. And it's just incredible to watch. And then I kind of put this as a shop. Does this dog out at the shop all the time? Yeah. So he's like the shop mascot. This is Lee Rose Koza. This is her family's store in the top right. But it's like you can definitely use dogs outside, but also inside. And a lot of shops I go into have like the mascot dog that stays at the store all the time. And I love going in those stores because I usually bring my dog too. And so I'm a big proponent of use dogs to attract people into the store. It also gives you great opportunities to pitch your local media, your local newspaper or the local news to come cover the event because you're going to have dogs there. And they know too that that'll be a good story for them that's interesting and different, right? And I would say, don't forget when you do some in-store activations to reach out to your local media because they're always looking for story ideas and they need your content. And that's really what you're doing is creating content for them. So always when you're doing something interesting, call your local guy and tell them about it. Here, I forgot about this slide. So providing water bowls for dogs in the store is always a good idea. Having cleanup supplies on hand for them. Doing an adoption event at your store can be huge. And again, another great way to get the media involved. I love Yappy Hour. I don't know if y'all have ever been to one, but if you can promote Yappy Hour at your store where everybody brings their dogs and you sort of have this whole dog-friendly experience. I've been to places where they brought a photographer in to do pet portraits, and then you don't usually pay the photographer. The customer ends up buying and you can work with a local photographer, and usually they love doing that because it introduces them to new customers, and they get some sales out of it when you buy because you're going to buy the pet portrait, or at least I did. And then also a neighborhood dog parade if you're in a place where you can do that, to have a dog parade on some nice weekend when the weather's nice, that's, maybe it starts and ends at your store, is another great way to bring people in. You were going to do
kids. Okay. Yes. So another case study that I have is called the Bro Roadshow. Does anybody know Brian Brosdahl? Anyone from up north? Okay, so he's a pretty big name in ice fishing. So many years ago, with a couple of different companies at the time, it was Frable, Northland, Aquaview. I'm not sure who who all they work with now when they do this, but in the beginning it was like 85 stores, and then like in 2017 it was 100 stores. So it was called the Bro Road Show. Publicize it, and he'd go out on the road to do different store presentations. But it was really two parts. So the first day when he would arrive, he would come in and work with the staff. He would get there as you're closing. They would have, food, and he would go through the different products and train the staff on them. Usually they got samples of their own. So, when your staff is using the products, then they really understand it. It really helps sell them. I know even with me, when I'm working with other products, that's the first thing I'm going to talk about, my experience with that product. The 10 times, 9 times out of 10, they're going to buy that product. So he spends a couple hours with the staff. The next day is when it's open to the public. So he does a seminar, but then he stays that day, and he's standing, whether it was at Aquaview or he was standing, with Northland or whatever, and he's talking about the products. People get to come up, they get autographs, the kids are there. And I had a really good slide with kids to show you with him. So you can do that with a lot of different pros. It doesn't have to just be one. And this was a manufacturer putting it on. But you can do the same thing. If you've got local pros or celebrities, college teams, the high school teams, get them in there. And if they're sponsored by certain products that are in your store, and have them doing that and help out, and they can volunteer and come in and show people how things work and talk about it. But it was very, very successful. I don't know how he did 100, that quickly, but they're still doing it, and it's.
And doesn't he do some like internet or digital content out of that?
Yeah, they did. So they get a lot of content out of it. Now he actually has a podcast where they talk about it. But it's great because you can get photos, and there's press releases put out about it. So you call your media, get it on the radio, newspaper, get them out there. And so it creates a big advertising piece for you as well.
And really on all of these things that we're talking about today, I think that would encourage you not to forget that they all can become content for you on your social media channels or on your website or even in your advertising. Now you have an opportunity to get photos and video and break them up and repurpose them yet later and as you're doing them.
Well, and also one other thing, most of the kids, I gotta quit calling them all kids, but the young adults, they're on Snapchat, they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're doing live things all the time. You can encourage them to be doing that while they're in there, and they're creating a buzz, during the event.
With kids, I know you probably all have some sort of kids fishing derby in your town, but it's just the reason why there's so many of them is because they're so popular. So I always encourage people to do some sort of kids fishing event. If you're lucky enough to have a pond at your store, you could do it. You could do at the pond, but otherwise there usually is a place you can go that's close by that is, if you're selling fishing gear, you've got a fishery somewhere close by. You can also bring a fish pond in. We've done this tons of times in the tournament world where we'd bring in a catfish pond, or you can hire somebody to do it. I think you could probably do it. I don't know. I've never known anybody that did it themselves, but I can imagine that would be something you could do. The only thing I would say is if you try to do it yourself, we used to have in our studio for the Bassmaster show, we used to have tanks with bass in them. And we had a local guy that brought us the fish every time we were going to shoot. But we learned that he had to bring them to us like 2 days before we shot because it took them a while to kind of get used to being in a tank and spread out and do their thing. So I would, just remember that if you tried to do it yourself. Casting Kids is a Bassmaster program where for bass clubs all over the country, they do this. It's kind of like punt, pass, and kick for kids, and bass clubs all over the United States do Casting Kids and know how to do it. It really just takes some rods and reels and a target that kind of looks like Bago. And actually, we've done it with Bago boards where we teach the kids to toss the lure into the holes in the Bago boards. And so there's surely bass clubs in your area that you could partner with on something like that. And then, of course, kids clinics are always a really good thing to get. And most brands would support you on that too. If you called up Angie's widget company and said, I want to have a kids event. Can you send somebody to do a kids demo? Like I said, even if they may not send Kevin Van Dam, but they could probably find somebody in your region that they work with that they would send over to you to do that in the store. And I think that's it, right?
I think so.
So do you guys, anybody have any questions? Nope. Wait, she's going to bring you a mic because we learned that the sound in here is not great for us hearing you. Yeah, any questions?
So I engage with a lot of kayakers in my area in the West Coast, and we work at a kayak shop. But I know a lot of the smaller shops don't have a large budget to spend on a lot of these things. Right. And I guess what would be some advice or tips on how to make your brand ambassadors or the representatives that you work with be able to tell your story, but also make it mutually beneficial for them without having big payouts or I guess big investments that you can make?
Well, we have, this one is on, right? Okay. So you're talking about brand ambassadors, like factory ambassadors, or your brand ambassadors?
Our vision and outreach team pretty much how to,
okay.
I guess, make it mutually beneficial for them and for us.
I've seen some where they get, a discount, or sometimes I'll say spiff, but they get a percentage. Like I know one store that they can have one of their ambassadors just say, hey, this is a great boat. I've been at this store. They talk about it a little bit and they sell, people going in, they sell 10 boats. That's worth giving someone something, whether it's product or accessories or, something like that. A lot of times they'll do it just because they love your store, but it is nice when you can help them out a little bit with it. So.
Any other questions?
Thanks. Not so much a question, but one of the things I've been doing recently is get a local captain or one of the company guys to come and do quick videos about product. And you can turn around and use them a bunch of different ways. Basically the guy I use, I pitched him, he's a saltwater guide. I pitched him, I want to buy a rainy day. He can't sell it to take somebody fishing. So you basically, I banked 6 hours with the guy. Comes by 3 or 4 times, do 2 or 3 at a time, and you end up with a library that complements the products that you carry and gets him some FaceTime, and it's working really well, and they're open to it, and it's a good way to and anytime he stops by, everyone who's working in the store is excited to learn something too. So just a thought on a way to bring him in.
Thanks. Anything else? Anybody else have a question?
If not, Lee Rose, do you want to just, because she was my case study, do you just want to really quickly, like a 2-minute example of some of the things? They do it really well.
Sure.
And they've got social going and they've got their whole
So
ambassadors.
one thing Dena and I were talking about yesterday is actually like making sure that our employees are like educated with all our products. So our big thing is selling Hobie kayaks, and we make sure that every single one of our employees is educated by our Hobie rep before they're put out there selling the product, so they know how every gadget and part works, or if a repair comes in, they know how to handle it. So I think just like the relationship with your company and business is really important, just with your employees, and I think it helps the customers feel more comfortable too, and everybody's friendly and inviting and welcoming. That's kind of how we
In that
work.
case, Lee Rose, is it a Hobie employee, or is it one of their reps, or?
It's a Hobie rep that usually
Yeah.
stops by, and also some Hobie pros like Christine Fisher and some college anglers. They'll stop in on the way to tournaments or pick up, shipments or orders, and
Right.
stuff.
Right.
So they usually, when like pros will stop by, they'll shoot a quick video, and that helps a ton. And I know they don't mind it either, so we can ask, or also they'll just, do
Right.
it.
I was just thinking, I wonder for smaller stores, I don't, how does that happen with you asking Hobie to send that guy? You see what I'm saying? So,
Yeah. I mean, usually they'll, stop by and check in on product and stuff, but
right.
I'm not really sure how.
Yeah, right. Well, and I think sometimes the rep groups can also serve that role as well. They
Yeah.
know the products really well. You might not be able to get like I said, somebody that, works at Angie's Widget Company, but Angie's Widget Company will help connect you with the person in your area that can do it more easily. Because y'all have a killer store.
Thank you. It's in Marietta, Georgia.
The Dugout in Marietta, Georgia. They have a great online, great digital presence, great social media, and they've sort of become like a little cultural icon in that community. They've very much expanded their brand to be, I think, more than just a retail store. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate y'all listening. And if you need anything, we'll be around. You could come up and discuss further if you'd like to. But otherwise, have a great show.
Thank you to our speakers.